Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're learning Maseches Sanhedrin Daf Tesvav. Um, there are some easy parts of the daf. There are some harder parts of the daf, and the clock is ticking, so we need to move. Right now we're starting on the bottom of Yud Daled Amud Beis, about 8 lines from the bottom, and we had said Hahekdeshos Bishlosha. When we're being makdish things, we need 3 people. And the Gemara says, Mas nisin de lo ki haitana. It must be that our Mishnah is not like the Mishnah of the following Brisa, the Tanya. The Brisa teaches something totally different. Our Mishnah said 3. What does Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov say? Omer, afilu tzinor shel hektish tzricha asara bnei adam liftosa. Even a little fork, a little pitchfork, a little instrument, a little kli of hektish can only be redeemed with 10 people, divergent from our Mishnah by a difference of 7. Amar le Rav Papa le Abaye Bishlam Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov Kishmuel. I understand Amar Kishmuel. I understand Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov because it actually reflects another shita that we have. Amar Shmuel Asara Kohanim Ksuvin Beparsha, because it says the word Kohen in the parsha of Hekdeshos 10 times. So therefore, I could understand how Shmuel got to 10, and I understand how Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov got to 10. Now, Rabbi Lazar doesn't need Shmuel, right? Rabbi Lazar is a Tana. Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov doesn't need Shmuel. But Shmuel created the platform of logic, not the halacha. The halacha was staked by Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov of 10. Shmuel came along and said, by the way, he said 10 because it says Kohen 10 times. So Elul Rabbanan, according to the authors of our Mishnah, who say that Hekdeshos are Bishlosha, Minalahu. What's the Marimakum that there should be 3 people by Hekdesh? We see from the Tanaim and the Amoraim that it should be 10. If you want to say that it only says it 3 times in the parsha of Hekdesh, so it says the word Kohen, well, Karkos techsibuhu arba tiski be'arba. Then maybe we would argue that if what we're talking about is how many times in the various smaller parshios of Hekdesh it says Kohanim, well, it says 4 by Karka, so tiske be'arba. Maybe we should say that it says Kohen 4 times by Karka, and we should only require 4 Eidim by Karka, but we know that's not true. Our Tana is going to struggle to explain this. Elamai says the Gemara, what do you want to say then that really there's 4 for Karka, but de mishalme behu asara, and maybe there's an extra 6 times it says Kohen by Hekdesh, Hekdeshos to mishalme behu shisa, then libo shisa. If you're saying that it's 4 for Karka and 6 for Hekdesh, and that's the breakdown of the 10, and you want to say that we're simply counting the word Kohen, then maybe we only need 6 for Hekdeshos. But where does your 3 come from? Says the Gemara Kasha. This is unbelievable. We don't know where our Mishnah on Daf Beis of this Masechta got the idea that Hekdesh is 3. We have no piggybacking on other sugyas, nothing. We just don't know. And it looks, I don't know what it means. Does it mean that our Mishnah made a mistake? Does it mean that we just don't know? Kasha doesn't usually mean teku, right? They're different. Kasha is we don't know the answer. Teku is nobody knows the answer. Those are different. Okay. We spoke about in our Mishnah as well, ha'erchen. An erech that a person makes is psukim and chumash. The halacha is that if a person says that I would like to give money to the Beis HaMikdash in the value of profile X, a female of age X, Y, or Z, a male of age A, B, or C, so then he has to definitely give those funds. So that's what was going on in our Mishnah. So let's see if we can make sense of this. My erchen hametaltalin. Our Mishnah spoke about a weird case. Erchen I know. Erchen is when a person says, erkecha alai, your value is on me. So then we look in the Chumash and say, oh, you're a 50-year-old male. Okay, so then the Torah will say how many shkalim you have to pay. But what's metaltalin? Amar Rav Gidol, Amar Rab, Omer erech kli ze alai. Erchen doesn't really apply to metaltalin. Erchen really applies to people. So what happens if you say that it's talking about a kli? The Amar Rav Gidol, Amar Rab, turning to the top of Tesvav Meralev. Omer, if a person says erach li ze alai no sein damav, so halacha l'maisa, you just have to give over that amount of money. So you're right. The psukim by erchen and chumash are talking about people. But if I say I want to give over the value of that phone over there, that's $1,000, then so be it. Then halachically you're obligated to do so. My taima. What is the reason why this is the case? Because Adam yodea she'ein erech likli. Everybody knows. Everybody should know that the parsha of erchen and chumash doesn't apply by kalim. It only applies by people. So I can give money according to the value, again, of a male of age X or a woman of age Y or a child of age Z. I can do that. But there is no such thing by Kalim. The Gamar v'Amar l'shum damim pashut, that when a person says, I hereby accept upon myself to give to the Beis HaMikdash the value of a phone, the value of a table or a chair, pashut, that he's just trying to give l'shum damim, mishum hachi no sein dama. But it's not really erchen. So says the Gemara, hi erchen hamitaltalin. If that's true, then why does it say erchen hamitaltalin? It should have said erchen shel metaltalin. Would have been a little bit more meduyak to say that it's not erchen hamitaltalin. There are no erchen that are metaltalin. Rather, what it should have said is erchen shel metaltalin. Obviously, it's not talking about people, because everybody knows adam yodesh ein erech l'kli. So the language would have been better. It should have been erchen shel metaltalin miboyle. Says the Gemara, you're right. Tni erchen shel metaltalin. So that's answer number one as to why this actually works, because after all, there is no erech by a kli. Answer number two belongs to Rav Chizda. Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Avimi, b'mat pis metaltalin the erchen. Very, very lumdish. Hatfasa is an idea that we learned about in the Darim, and we learned about this earlier. This is where we kind of transfer over the power of erchen to a non-erchen item. Yes, I know erchen applies to people, but I could be matfis. I can take the halachic koach of erchen and make it true by a metaltalin item. So says the Gemara, if that's true, metaltalin shel erchen. There too, there could have been more meduyak language in our Mishnah. Says the Gemara, says the Gemara, Tini, you're right, we should change it, metaltalin shel erchen. And then the third answer is none of the above. Why is it that this case is valuable? There's no erchen by people. Rabbi Abo Omer be'omer erki alai. A person Taka did say, I'm giving over my erech, I'm a man, I'm 44 years old, according to the Torah, I have to pay X number of shkalim. And ba kohen legabos mimenu. And after me, I made my pledge. Now the director of development is coming around. He's coming to collect some dues. So the Gemara says the kohen's coming to collect. Metaltalin b'shlosha karkos b'asara. Totally different. It was a case of erech, but the guy didn't pay his dues. So now he has to collect. The guy doesn't have any cash on him. He doesn't have any liquid money. So he's going to take some metaltalin. He's got some properties, no problem. So if it's metaltalin b'shlosha, if it's karka b'asara, and that is that part of that sugya. And Amrle Ravachim Difti Ravina Bishlama La'afuke Mehektish Boyan Shlosha. I understand when I take money, when I'm trying to be podeh from Hektish, I need 3. But if I'm just going to be donating to Hektish, why do I need 3? Let me make my donation by myself. I don't need anybody's help. I'll walk over to the pushka by myself. Leave me be. Amarle, the Gemara says Svarahu. It's just rational. Mali iyule, mali afuke. Who cares if I'm taking and redeeming from Hektish or giving to Hektish? Actually, I think there's a very big difference, but the Gemara doesn't seem to think there's a difference at all, which clearly means I'm wrong. Afuke mai, when you're redeeming, what's the concern? Dil matai. We're afraid someone's going to make a mistake. Says the Gemara, yule nami, dil matai. When a person's making an erech to the Beis HaMikdash, it's easy to make a mistake. Dollar amounts, shkalim amounts, pledge amounts, you could make a mistake. So the Gemara says, whether or not you're giving to or redeeming from, the halacha is that there needs to be 3 people. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Omer, we had learned in our Mishnah that of the 3 people who are dealing with the erchen of metaltalin, one of them should be a kohen. And the Gemara says about a third of the way down at the 2 dots, Amar Rapapa Abaye, Bishlamad Rabbi Yehuda. I understand according to Rabbi Yehuda, Hainu Dichsiv Kohen. That's why the pasuk says the word kohen. Let's look at the pasuk on the side. The erich hakohen osa bein tovu vein ra ki erkecha hakohen ken. Yeah, it says the word kohen multiple times. So one of those times is to teach me that we need one of the people to be a kohen. According to the rabbis who don't need a kohen, they'll take any 3. L'Rabbanan, according to them, kohen lamaluhu. Why does the pasuk have to say kohen twice? It says Gemara Kasha, you're taka right. We don't understand their shita. Next, we had said hakarkos tisha v'kohen, that when it comes to karka, we need 9 regular Jews plus 1 priestly Jew. Minah where is this from? Amar Shmuel Asar Kohanim Ksuvim B'Parsha Chad Legufei. There are 10 Kohanim that are listed in the Parsha. One of them is to teach me that we need a Kohen, and the rest are all the other people. Even though it says 10 Kohanim, only one of them is to teach me that a Kohen needs to be there. Says the Gemara, Hanacha v'miyut achar miyut, vein miyut achar miyut ela l'rabos. De'afilu tes Yisrael ve'echad Kohen. It says the Gemara that these 10 are miyut achar miyut. So you have the Kohen, and the next one is going to be mamayit. I don't need, it's miyut achar miyut. You need to have a Kohen, that's a miyut, non-Yisrael. The next Kohen is a miyut. Ein miyut achar miyut ela l'rabos, which means that the next Kohen means not a Kohen. Sounds backwards, but that's how ein miyut achar miyut works. So says the Gemara, wait, hold on one second. If what you're saying is ein miut achar miut, we have a problem. Maskif la Rav Huna bered Rav Nasan ema chamisha kohanim v'chamisha Yisraelim. Says the Gemara, it's a chap. It keeps flip-flopping. If what you're saying is that we have the word Kohen is listed 10 times by Karkos. The first Kohen is a miut. The second Kohen is miut achar miut, which is the Rabbos. So Kohen, Yisrael. The third time it says Kohen is a miut. So he should be a Kohen. The fourth time is miut achar miut, which is the Rabbos. So the way it would work is that the references of the word Kohen 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 are all miutim, which means they can't be Yisraelim, they have to be Kohanim. But all of the even-numbered Kohanim, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, are all miut achar miut l'rabos. So why would you say 9 regulars and 1 Kohen? It should be 5 Kohanim and 5 Yisraelim. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 is miut, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 is miut achar miut l'rabos. Brilliant. By the way, what's the havamina of the other shita? Very weird. The Gemara says, kasha. Absolutely a great question. A lot of kashas in this Masechta, by the way. I think more than anywhere else. Again, I'm kind of reacting emotionally, but I don't think we've ever had this many kashas in such rapid succession in Shas. A lot of kashas. Then it says, Va'adam kayotze behen, that a man is like the karka, that when a man is doing a donation in his own honor, so then it's 9 and 1. 9 regulars and 1 Kohen. Says the Gemara, Adam mikadosh, a person. I understand you can give the erech of, but you're not actually being makdish yourself. You're being makdish your erech, but you're not being makdish yourself. You're an individual. You can't do that. Amar Rabbi Bo, Omer dmei alai. We're not talking about erechin over here. The person says dmei alai, and you're right. He can't really become a kadosh. It's not really erechin. He's just saying, I want to give of myself to the Beis Hamikdash, whatever my value is, I'm giving. But again, it's not erechin. The Tanya, Omer dmei alai. If a person uses the language of Dmei Alai, how do we assess that? Shaman Asok Yevan Anim Kar B'Shuk. We take that guy's status. Okay, I'm 44. I'm male. I'm in reasonably good shape. And the Gemara says, how much would I sell for as an Eved in the Shuk? Okay, $1.99, no problem. The Eved is Kishla Karkos, and an Eved is similar to Karka. What does Karka need? 9 Jews plus 1 Kohen. Very good. That's why we need to have this system, because he must have said Dmei Alai, on my age and on my tax bracket, this is how much I'm worth. And an Eved is similar to Karka. So therefore, 9 Jews plus a priest. Very good. And then, seemingly out of left field, says the Gemara a little bit more than halfway down, Boy Rabbi Oven, Seyar ha'ome ligzos bekama. If I have long hair and I'm about to cut it, how much is it valued at? Let's take a look at Rashi to give us some context, please, because this sounds like really out of left field. Says the Gemara, says Rashi halfway down, Dibur Maskal, Seyar ha'ome ligzos, says the Gemara, v'hikdisho. You were makdish, the value of your beautiful locks of hair. Last part we're not going to go into, but the point is, how do we view it? Do we view it as, the next Rashi says, kigazuz dami, in which case, or no, is it like the Adam, who we just said, needs 10 Jews? Is the hair that's attached to his head, because it's going to be cut, similar to metaltalin, so we only need 3 people? Or no, is it part of his guf, and it's therefore similar to him, and he's similar to karka, and therefore we need 10? That's really the Gemara's question. Very shrouded, would have been very unclear from the Gemara, but that's the kasha of the Gemara. And the Gemara responds, where are we? Here we are. So let's see if we can find an answer, 2/3 of the way down. Says the Gemara Toshma, Makdish es avdo, ein mo'alin bo. If a person is makdish their eved, there is no me'ila. What does that mean? Let's take a look at Rashi, just to our right a little bit up, Dibur Maskal, ein mo'alin bo, David reu kekarka, ein me'ila bekarka. You can't do me'ila with karka. You can only do me'ila with things that are movable. And an eved's like that. So that's the sheet of the Tanakama. If you're makdish your eved, there's no such thing as me'ila. So even if you use him when you shouldn't, it's actually not me'ila, because he's similar to karka. Rashba gomer mo'alin besaro. However, with his hair, with the hair of the Eved, you can do Me'ila. What does that tell you about his hair? It must be the Kaimalan, the Besaro, Omid Ligzos Pligi. The Machlokes in Tanakam and Rashbag about the hair of the Eved is whether or not the hair is considered shorn already. According to the Tanakama, where he says there's no Me'ila even by the hair, that means that it's still attached to the body. The Eved is an Eved and he's similar to Karka, there's no Me'ila. But according to Rashbag, when you commit the hair, it's as if it's cut already. How do I know? Because there's me'ila on the hair of the Eved. Long, beautiful waves of hair. He's going to donate it to locks of love, give the kid a sheitel. Givaldik. It's ki'ilu, according to Rashbag, that it's been cut already. Because there's me'ila on that hair if you misuse it. Unbelievable. So that's our machlokes. Shma mina, that it's a machlokes tanoim as to whether or not hair is omed ligzos dami. Maybe this machlokes Tanakam and Rashbag about whether or not there's meila by the hair of an eved is similar to Ditnan. The Mishnah says, Rameir Omer, Yesh Dvarim Shein Kikarka, Ve'enon Kikarka, Ve'en Chachamim Modim Lo. Sounds very clear that this is similar. According to Reb Meir, there are things that have a multi-feature. They're like Karka and they're not. That sounds like the Rashbag. Yes, the hair is attached to his head, but halachically it's not, and you can do meila with it. Ma'ashe'en Kin the Chachamim are not Moda. Kate said, what's the case? Now, this new case of Reb Meir gives a different example. We were talking about hair. This one's talking about Ketzad Eser Gefanim to Unos Masarti Lach. I gave you 10 vines that were loaded with grapes. The Hala Omer Einan Elach Hamesh only gave me 5. The halacha is Rav Meir is Mechayev. You're Chayev in a Shvua of Modeh B'Miksas Hataina. If somebody says 5, you're admitting to half. What's the halacha? Modeh B'Miksas. But there's a problem. You can't make a Modeh B'Miksas Hataina on something that's attached to the ground. What must he therefore assume about the grapes on the vine? That they're no longer halachically on the vine anymore because they're going to be plucked. And there is no shivua, even though you're modeh b'mixas, because there's no modeh b'mixas ataina. There's no modeh b'mixas ataina on something that's mechubar. So we see over here the same exact idea. According to the Tanakama Rav Meir, it must be that the grapes are halachically not attached to the vine anymore, even though they are, because he said you get to make a taina, you get to make a shvua, modeh b'mixas ataina. According to the Chachamim, they're still attached. Same machlokes. We're talking about grapes that are about to be harvested. Mar Sabar Kibitzuros Damyan. Rav Meir holds that it says though they've been harvested already. Mar Sabar Lav Kibitzuros Damyan. No, they're not. So maybe this case of the grapes is similar to the hair, says the Gemara, 3/4 of the way down, 12 lines from the bottom below. Rav Meir. Even Rav Meir would agree to the hair, because the case of the hair and the case of the grapes are not the same. Listen to this chakira. Ad kan lo kamer Rabbi Meir hasam kol kamer the shav kaluhu mekash kachshi. The grapes are not the same. The longer the grapes stay on the vine, the worse they get past the point of perfect growth. After that, they go straight downhill. The longer they stay on the vine, the worse they get. What about hair on the head? Aval saro kol kamer the shav kaluhu ashbuchay mishbach. Cases are not the same. So therefore, Reb Meir would disagree. Reb Meir would say that what I'm saying is true by grapes. But maybe by hair, Reb Meir would not say that. Maybe Reb Meir would say that's still on the head, and therefore there's no meila. So we don't know if these two cases have a machlokes between. We're now going to talk about the case of Revia, the case of sodomy that was mentioned in the Mishnah. I'll frame out the question this way. The Gemara has the dialogue, the syntax is difficult in the Gemara a little bit. When a person is sodomized by an animal, when they're the victim, are they put to death? Or only when they're the perpetrator? So if a man were to sodomize an animal, or if an animal were to sodomize a man, are those the same thing in halacha? And let's factor in a woman as well. If a woman were to create the scenario, she's the predator, or if the animal would be rovea, the woman, are those all the same thing? Do they all require 23? Because the bezdin of 23 is required only where death is involved. Okay, so that's kind of the framing of this sugya. Din nefashas v'chule. Kapasik v'tani loshna rova zachar v'loshna rova nekeva. We don't care who is the one who's involved, male or female. It doesn't matter. So asks the Gemara. Bishlama rova nekeva dichsiva rachtos ishaves abehema. There we can assume that the animal, the male animal, was the predator and the woman was the victim. That we understand because it's stated in the Chumash. That if the victim, the nearby, the man who was sodomized by the animal, that he should be put to death. The pasuk speaks about a woman, but maybe the man doesn't get put to death, and therefore we don't need a bezdin of 23 because a bezdin of 23 is only by a din and nefashos. But says the Gemara, nope, you can't say that. Men and women have the same halacha, both as perpetrators and as victims. Dichsiv kol shochev behema mos yumas. This pasuk is actually extra. Im eino inyan l'shochev. If we're not talking about the man who was shochev, tnehu inyan l'nishkab. If we're not talking about the shochev, the man who is the one who was the perpetrator, the predator, then it's even for the nishkab, the one who was the victim. The afke rachmana b'lashon shochev la'akushe nishkab l'shochev, to teach us that whether or not you were the one that started the activity, or you were the victim of the activity, ma shochev hu v'hemto be'esrim v'shlosha, af nishkav hu v'hemto be'esrim v'shlosha. Fascinating. What about Ratzon? The Gemara doesn't speak about this. I'm asking. I don't. What if the Revia, what if the sodomy was not by desire, and you were the victim of? So the Gemara doesn't make this distinction. Okay, so says the Gemara. Let's continue. Shor haniskal be'esr v'shlosha, an animal that killed and therefore needs to be put to death. That animal can only get such a psak with a bezin of 23. Shene'emar, Ashor yisakel v'gam be'alav yumas. Kimisas habaylim kach misas hashor. Just like when the bailim would be put to death, they need a bezin of 23. So to the misas hashor, that's the din of shor haniskal. Amar le abayla rava. Mimai dehai v'gam be'alav yumas lichemisas bailim kach misas hashor da'asam. Hecha tesi. The din of the pasuk is that just like we need 23, if a man is to be put to death, so too by the animal. Turning to the top of Tesvavam at Beis, we'll be going until about 12 lines, 10 lines from the bottom of the page. Ema, perhaps what the pasuk means is liktalahu da'asa. Maybe when the pasuk says v'gam be'alav yumas, that it doesn't mean 23, but it means that the owner is put to death. I'm about achrayas. Maybe if I was responsible for that animal and it killed another person, so guilty party, maybe then the owner should be put to death. Says the Gemara, perhaps we should say that it's just to say v'gam be'alav yumas, that the owner of the shore actually is killed. In Cain, says the Gemara, it should just say v'gam be'alav. What would the pasuk have said without the word yumas? The pasuk would have said hashor yisakel v'gam be'alav. That makes a lot of sense, right? Without the word yumas, we still would understand perfectly. Why did we add the extra word yumas? It must be for that comparison of misas bailim to misas shor that we need 23. That's what the Gemara is suggesting. In Kain lichtov rachmana v'gam be'alav l'ishtok. No, because of rachmana hachi without the word yamus havamina b'skila. I might have thought that you would have been killed with skila. Says the Gemara. Why would I have ever thought that? B'skila sal kedaitach katal ihu b'sayif. If a man would murder, his punishment is b'sayif. Katal b'mamono b'skila. But if my animal kills, then the punishment of the owner of the animal is b'skila. If I would have killed, it would have been b'sayif. So what's the havamina that I would have ever thought this? And says the Gemara, v'dilma, hi because of rachmana yumas. Maybe the reason why the Torah said the word yumas is la'akula ilave, is to make it lenient for him. La'afuke misayif lechenek, to put him into the sayif category instead of chenek. It's written in a very difficult way over here, but it actually means that you should get sayif instead of chenek, because sayif is a lesser punishment. Says the Gemara, not according to everybody. Okay, I could understand the word yumas would tell me that I get saif instead of chenek if chenek is more chamor. According to the one who says that chenek is not more chamor, what then should be the case? What is the pasuk using? What is the pasuk trying to tell us in regards to 23? Says the Gemara, lo sal kedaitach. Stop! This whole thing is ridiculous. You can't say the pasuk means we're putting the owner of the animal to death. You can't say that that he can pay his way out. You can't say that we're talking about a financial compensation. Obviously, the owner is not getting killed. He can pay his way out. Says the Gemara, Adarabba. That's the most backwards argument. Mishum hi gufa. From that alone, I could see that maybe he is killed. Katal ihu lo tiskile b'mamona el b'katala. That if in fact he was the one who killed, money won't lo tiskile b'mamona. Money won't help el b'katala. Katal shora lifrok nafshe b'mamona. But maybe when his animal kills, he is going to only pay out. That's exactly right. So we really are stuck here in this shaklavataria. So the Gemara steps up one whole rung and answers in the following way: quarter of the way down, third of the way down. El amar chizkiya v'chein tana de bechizkiya. Amar kra mos yumas hamake rotzeachu al ritzichaso atahorgo v'i atahorgo al ritzichas shoro. Drops the gavel. That's it. That's the psak for us. That no, if my animal kills, if something that I own kills, so then I am not put to death for that. Let's just make an application of this in Jewish law. Let's say I have a car that drives completely by itself, no driver. It's my car, but it hits, God forbid, someone and kills them. I'm not in the car. Same case. My shore, my car. So what's the din? So the Gemara says, you cannot hold the owner accountable if they are not a rotzeach. And they're not a rotzeach if they're not the one who killed. It's their mammon that did it. It's not them. And that's the distinction. If my mammon is the one that does it, so then I'm pater. My hammer is my mammon. My gun is my mammon. No. Because that's an extension of you. That's different. That's not me pulling a trigger. that's my animal doing my animal, whatever bechira my animal has. That's out. But if I do a maisa with my mammon, the maisa I do, that's still me. That's my hand. That's an extension of my hand. Fascinating Shiloh, third of the way down. Yibailahu shor Sinai bekama. We know the pasuk says by Har Sinai that if an animal was to go up onto the mountain, most you must. That none of the animals or people were allowed to go on Har Sinai. Mi gomar shah midoros olo. Can we apply that rule from then to now? Namely, if we find an animal walking up to Har Sinai right now, would it be put to death with a bezdin only of 23? Says the Gemara Tashma, the Tani Rami Bar Yechezkel, im behema im ish lo yichya, ma ish bechav gimel, af behema bechav gimel. It's incredible. Yeah, we don't know where Har Sinai is, and I'm sure animals have traversed it over the years, unless some type of spirit. And again, we don't know what this means, but that's what the Gemara says. Last major sugya for tonight. Ha'ariva haze'ev, all of these predatory animals. Amar Reish Lakish v'hu shehemiso. When are you allowed to kill those animals? Only if they've killed. Aval lo hemisu lo. If the animals haven't killed, then you're not allowed to kill them. Alma kasavar yesh lahen tarbus v'yesh lahen bailim. That implies that these animals can be domesticated and they have owners. Am I allowed to own a tiger in halacha? So the Gemara wants to say if it's never killed, you're not allowed. Then yes, it's a predator, but you can't kill it. That means we assume in halacha that because we don't assume it kills. Yeah, he's a snake charmer. He's a snake charmer. So seemingly, according to him, he held that they could be trained. Don't worry, Rabbi Yochanan disagreed, although we hold like Rabbi Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan Amar afal pi shelo hemisu, even if they didn't kill, but they're predators, I'm allowed to kill them. Alma, what does that mean by Rabbi Yochanan? Kasavar ein lem tarbus ve'ein lem bailim. They're untrainable. They will kill. You can kill them right now. So let's see if we can figure out who's right. Tanan, we have a question. This is a brisa that we learned on Daf Beis. Rabbi Lazar Amar kol hakodem lahargan zacha. If you see a snake, go get a knife and cut his head off. Machete. No problem. Rabbi Yochanan. I understand according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says that these animals are going to kill anyways. Lamai zacha, zacha la'oran. I benefited from their skin, and I was allowed to kill them for that purpose. Plus, they don't kill anybody. Ela l'reish lakish lamai zacha. This is a fascinating spin. If Reish Lakish holds that you are that they're trainable, kevan shehemisu, once the animal kills and is now deemed to be put to death, shavinhu rabbanon keman de gomar dinaihu va'asure hananinu. He says, therefore, it should be aser behana, because once they have a din of having killed, then they have a din in bezdin of a shor haniskal, in which case they're aser behana. It says the Gemara, "My zacha zacha l'shamayim." You did something good upstairs. You got rid of a dangerous animal. So had we paskined this way, and we don't, you could walk through the streets and kill a predatory animal. It says the Gemara, last brisa for the day, Tanya Kavasi de Reish Lakish. There's a brisa that supports the shita of Reish Lakish. Echad shor shehemis ve'echad behema v'chaya shehemisu b'chaf gimel. You need 23 Jews for that. You're not allowed to kill it on your own because they are domesticated animals, or they're domesticatable, they're trainable. Rabbi Eliezer Omer shor shehemis be'esrim v'shlosha. A shor that kills is 23, but he disagrees. Ushar behema v'chaya shehemisu. Any other animal that kills, kol hakodem lahorgan zacha bahen la shamayim. You're allowed to kill them. You get a zchus up in heaven for killing them. So this is a machlokes between a shor haniskal and other animals. And as we'll see tomorrow, that a nachash is the difference between everyone, that a nachash can always be killed. Are they predators? They're harmless. We're wimpy. They're harmless. What? Yes, we have to define a predator. Is predator injuring you, damaging you? All right, we'll stop right here. Wishing you all a beautiful night.